All right. Welcome to another episode of Connect and Politic. We're here with a special guest. Please introduce yourself by telling us your name, where you're currently located, and your favorite snack.
My name is Rosanna Ovalles, or Rosanna Ovalles in English. I am in the South Bronx in New York, and favorite snack? I It is peanut butter, but I need you to know that I'm not copying off of anybody. It's peanut butter. Like, it just is. Toast on everything.
hold on. Okay, any special brand of peanut butter?
Jif Creamy.
Jif Creamy. That's the one. And
Specifically the natural one, because it has I don't know. Lie to me. It's fine. Just thank you.
Yeah.
Creamy.
But also, do you just eat it out of the jar?
Sometimes. I have a designated peanut butter jar in my house. Just don't eat the peanut butter. I'm gonna be gross with it. You will see chocolate in there. Just it's mine. Yeah. So I think it's definitely peanut butter.
That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Do you remember your favorite food as a child?
My favorite meal or that one's because I'm allergic to cheese now, and I wasn't when I was younger. So my favorite meal, if you ask me to go somewhere, no, my favorite meal was lasagna. It doesn't matter who was making it. Yeah. Lasagna was the best. It's just such a good invention. Yes. Yes. But I can't have it anymore. So I'm bitter.
Yeah. So what's your favorite meal now?
Drunken noodle Thai food. I'm genuinely upset that there are no Thai restaurants anywhere near me. I'm maybe this is what I should open. And it's I don't want to. I just want to eat the drunken noodles. Yeah. So drunken noodles definitely top. Probably because of the allergy to cheese. It happened right after. I was fine, I'll eat other food instead of Dominican and Italian. Sure. Yeah. So drunken noodles. It's just perfect.
When was the last time you had it?
3 months ago. I remember because I was in Harlem. Because again, they don't have it by me. And I remember asking my friends, no one's talking about food. And I'm y'all hungry? Can we order Thai food? And they were wow, you came here with a purpose. I'm yes, one of many. So about 2-3 months ago, more like 3.
Yeah.
I miss it.
I know there's no delivery service that you can tap into.
I mean, yeah, but for that, I'll just start experimenting how to make it myself. I have time.
That is true. That is true.
I might as well just buy Instacart all of the things that are gonna just come to my house, and I'll use something on how to make.
Yeah. So you never tried making it?
Good God, no. There's just some things I'm no, I don't want to know how to make this because there might come. I also like Korean fried chicken. Mm-hmm. And when I found out that it's basically double fried or baked and fried, I was what? Why'd you mess up my life like that? Now I can't eat this. But I do. I just don't it's definitely not as often. And I don't want somebody to take drunken noodle away too. I can't have cheese.
What was your fondest memory as a child?
Oh wow. That one's a little split for me because I grew up, my parents and I immigrated to the US when I was 2. So I always say I got kidnapped. I'm that's not funny, but I didn't say I wanted to come here. But anyway, I remember when they used to send me back home every summer, my absolute favorite thing was playing in the dirt, right? My parents never let me go out when I was in New York. Literally did not go outside. It was we must all go out together or everyone stays home. I'm damn, I don't see. But in the Bronx, my favorite thing was when they finally let me like jump into the fire hydrants when like they were open in the summertime. So basically everything is outside, because then the winter time I'm thinking about finally convincing my mom to go to the snow. Around the block we have a huge park. And then in DR, Dominican Republic, we are from like a really poor town, and like one of the last ones to get paved roads. And I was like super proud of that as a kid. For some reason, I was just like, yeah, this is great. There's so many bugs everywhere. And my mom, who's totally like, ew, please stop. She tells me stories about just me playing in the dirt. I remember the carport. Look at me knowing English words. The carport. The edge of it had cinder blocks, but they were not fully covered. So they had like little scoops in them almost. So I used to imagine that they were bowls, and I was like making food on this side, and I would make my cousins stand on the other side, which is the garden, aka more dirt. And I would be like, excuse me, I need you to get me more oregano. And my cousin would like run around the garden. It was so cute. I remember that like it was yesterday. And like us playing with dirt, me serving them in like the leaves, my aunt getting mad they were ripping her garden apart. It was great.
And okay, what do you miss about being a child?
I miss having like I miss what we had as a family. Like I don't really miss not having any responsibilities. But what I miss the most is probably hanging out with my families. We had the best like basement parties, and it was just lit, as they say. So I think I miss that like really tight-knit community and feeling like I was part of this like this very tight tribe. My tribe is real, and it is expanded, and I'm grateful for it. But I do miss what we were creating as like newly arrived immigrants trying to figure this out. That was nice.
Yeah. How many of you? How many of you guys was it?
I don't remember off the top of my head, because it's my mom's side of the family, okay. And it's her and two of her sisters, because some of the other ones stayed in Dominican Republic. So I grew up with maybe 16 cousins or so who I like saw every day or every other day. Grandma was here. It was basically 4 marriages and like a bunch of children. I was one of 2 girls. I was weird.
That's nice. And are you all still in New York, or?
No. Well, my parents left to DR. Thank goodness. They were not happy here. They were happy here because they got the opportunities that they did. But like, you know, when you're older and it's like, oh, I just want to sit down. Yeah. Like, why is it so hot? Yeah. Why can't I go outside? You know? So maybe some people, I think we just swapped. Some people that weren't coming to the US were like, never, are now here. And some of us that were like, I'm not going back. Are like, take me back. So
like, how do you think your childhood, all those experiences with, you know, the large family, how do you think that helped groom you into the person you are today?
Oh, wow. I think if I take my mother has a lot of stories of me like being kind of rude, like as a kid. Just like I was the kid that, according to her, I was rude. I just thought I had really good boundaries. Now that I have that, you know, verbiage, but people would just like come up to me and be like, oh, how are you? It's like, pick me up. I'm like, absolutely not. You put me down, right? Like, I was just not having it with adults. I'm like, y'all are weird. No, I don't know you, miss. You know, like I was that kid. So I think my mother specifically taught me a lot, like overtly taught me a lot of social skills that I don't I don't know, I would have picked them up because I didn't really feel they had a lot of value when I was younger. I just thought people were bothering me. And my dad is a gregarious, like super jovial, like jokester man. So I think I because I'm a daddy's girl, I'm always like, oh my God, it's so great, he's so funny. And like I want to be funny. So it's like my mom is like the mega hostess Renaissance woman. This woman can do like anything. My dad is like, yes, and I'll be there and it'll be great and I'm supporting you and they will have fun. So I feel like I have a really good balance. But the fact that it's so big, my family, is like I had to learn how to kind of negotiate with others so early in life. And like I know so many I babysat for a while, and like I know so many parents that are afraid to kind of let their kids like be little humans. So they shelter them a little more, as I probably was, but I was sheltered in a family of like, I don't know, 30 people, like shelter. So I think having so many of them taught me how to handle different personalities, how to handle different ages and different age groups, and how to, you know, kind of fit in and how to navigate a physical space with others is something I learned very, very, very early. I've been surrounded by people my whole life. So when I'm completely alone, it's almost foreign. I had to adjust to that, like, as I grew and as I became like my own self and kind of assimilated to American life, to be frank. I felt myself kind of leaning more towards isolation and just like being by myself and chilling. But I do miss the other stuff, so.
Yeah. I mean, well, since you brought that up, how are you dealing with the isolation of COVID, you know, the COVID situation?
It was rough. It was super rough. Not just, I mean, I think it's rough for everybody, right? But I think I had to recognize that I would be like lonely pretty early. And I think so many of the people that, because I'm surrounded by people and I've lived in like my aunt's house and like, I haven't existed in my own place in a while. And now suddenly I am since past October. And like, now that I'm all by myself, I have a roommate, but she's an essential worker and like, I don't really see her much. And when I do, it's not the same because even before we used to like hug at the door. So I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 3 days. Now it's like, hi, from the other side of the room. Like, we just kind of got used to it now. And I kind of hate it because it's also not part of my culture. Like I have to physically restrain myself from hugging others, and it sucks. I thought I was getting too few hugs before COVID. Now I'm like, damn. But I miss them. I'm just not gonna see them because they're crazy and they hang out sometimes. I'm like, no, thank you. Stop, zoom me in, guys. FaceTime me when you get there.
Oh man, that's a whole nother. We would do a live episode on that. Just how certain communities are respecting the physical distancing protocol. It's interesting to say the least. What are you know? So you grew up with both your mom and your dad and your sister
and my brother.
Oh, your brother as well.
Other girl is a cousin.
Okay. Oh, so it was you, your brother, and another girl, but your cousin that's like your sister.
Well, you're talking about like in the home?
Yeah.
Mom, dad, brother, me.
Oh, okay. So it's for
because I'm the only girl except another girl in a like group of 16 to 20 humans.
Oh wow.
So like I grew up around dudes of all ages.
Wow, that's interesting. But yeah, so what are some of the important lessons you learned from your parents?
The ones I learned or the ones they tried to teach me?
Well, let's do the ones you learned first, and then we'll go to the ones they try to teach you. Let's do that.
Lesson learned. Mom. My mother taught me how to like zoom out from a problem and zoom back in. Now that I do some of the craft stuff that she does, I can see how she had that skill really early. She sews. So in something like sewing or most crafts that are gonna like give you an end product, if it's a measurable product, you have to like zoom out and see what you're trying to make to then go back to that specific spot, right? Like if I'm sewing a skirt and I have to know I'm at the waistband and I have to know these things and I have whatever. My mother, I think, taught me how to kind of look at problems and start, right? Like my mother taught me critical thinking pretty early in life. It was very clear to her that like I could not be stupid. It was just not an option. So there's that. My mother always says that you die without knowing anyone. So like, she's not the most trusting human being in the world. I am the most trusting human being in the world. So I think she helped me kind of find a kind of middle. I'm still leaning gullible, but I found a middle, and I think it's because of her. I think she gave me some really good, tough love.
Before you go on, she said you die without knowing anyone?
Yeah, so it's kind of it's not so much a saying, it's more like a retort. I've heard her say it often when like someone is surprised about something someone did. She's like, you don't know nobody. Like it's a very like, stop. Don't overreact about something someone did to you when you think you know the whole world, and like they are their own whole world, so you don't. And I think it showed me perspective and conscientiousness and compassion, but it also taught me like, don't give everything, girl. Stop it. I still haven't completely figured that one out, but it's starting to stick, I think. My dad, my dad, I don't know what sayings. My dad, the one I haven't learned yet. No, I'm kidding. I learned it. I just sometimes mess up. The whole if you're there on time, you're late. If you're 5 minutes early, you're on time.
Yeah.
He does not say 5 minutes, let me tell you. That man is like, you gotta be there half an hour early. And I'm like, Dad, it's right there. And he's like, nope. I'm like, oh, Jesus. But it finally stuck when I started like my dream job. And I was like, I gotta get there early. I gotta get there early. So like even the days that I was late, I wasn't late.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to learn that one. Trust. My mother, education is everything. And to my dad, hard work is everything. So it's almost like I had no escape. Perform.
So what surprised you when you first left your parents' house?
How much my dad refilled the water filter. Not really though. I'm not. That's not even a joke. I remember my dad. Like, oh, now you know. And I'm like, I know, man. When you have to do it for yourself, you're like, how come there's no water? Did you put water there? Like, which is probably another like you reap what you sow message from my mom.
That's good. That's great. I mean, that's good.
Appreciating people that help you every day, that go unnoticed.
Yes.
No, but I realized how much like how much planning goes into the life that my parents gave me. And like I was such an ungrateful child. But I remember being really, really grateful, but still really, really mad about all of it because it wasn't what I wanted, because they're really focused on structure and stability, which I'm grateful for because I was their child. But I also wanted to go free. I wanted to leave. I wanted to, like, I don't know, bounce, man. And they were like, no, stay as close as possible. I'm like, jeez. I'm kind of glad they did, because that's how I ended up at our school. So
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have.
What are your favorite things to do for self-care?
Ooh. Self-care as in, like, when people say self-care, I think about like the upkeep, not like the I'm pissed right now. That to me is a coping mechanism. For me, self-care is things like making my bed, which I never had to do as a kid, but makes me feel really good. There's like I have more routines now, so I don't always have coffee, but I always go to the kitchen and like have a drink. There's just some habits I have that I rarely break, that kind of keep me on pace, especially during this time. But before this time, I think self-care for me also meant talking to my friends, right? Like touching base with, I don't know, 2 to 3 people a week minimum, really. Like I'm a true extrovert in that sense. Like one of my exes says that I charge with people, and it's the opposite. And I'm like, I definitely recharge with people, because if when people were taken away from me, I was like, wait, I'm exhausted. I don't want this. I don't want any of it. And I know it's because I missed human interaction. So this.
Yeah. So let's unpack the piece about your, the habits that you currently do, or you started. One, tell me more about those habits, and then how did you develop those habits?
I mean, it used to be coffee, right? So like one of them was coffee in the morning, because I know that I am going to be tired by a certain point. And in order for me to give people the version of myself that I would want, I felt like morning was too early. So usually it was coffee, because I was like, oh, let me like be alert, right? Now, when I'm not doing anything, coffee is not it. So sometimes it's something else. But I always keep that habit of like almost waking my body up with a liquid, right? Instead of like waiting until I'm about to make breakfast and that's the first thing I ingest. I feel like kind of being conscious of my body and being like choosing to be really present within myself is something I do constantly because of my history with anxiety, but it's also something that grounds me when I'm not, right? So I think that's a really big self-care thing. I'm in my mind, I'm constantly doing these exercises of like grounding exercises, right? Some are as simple as, counting things or whatever, but some are just like, how am I right now? Like, why am I feeling that way? Should I feel that way? Like, can I change how I feel if I want to? So I think it's for me about being present in all of the things that I'm doing, so that nothing sneaks up on me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I label it self-care, because for me, the moments of chaos and there will always be something unexpected. So for me, it's about creating some like scaffolding, not necessarily like a full body structure building rigid, but just, hey, gonna have to, I might have to stop this thing I'm doing, and I have to be present enough to know whether or not I'm capable of doing that thing. And I might not be. So I need to be able to tell someone whether or not I am. So self-care for me tends to revolve around my interaction with others, because the end point for me is to not to not do something, but to end that interaction in a positive note. Mm-hmm. So like even we can disagree, we can be fighting, whatever, but like hopefully you don't feel worse as a whole after interacting with me. And I think that the only way that I can do that is by being as present as possible.
Yeah.
that takes a lot of energy though. So hydrate.
Yeah, water is good. So now that you don't drink coffee, what do you drink?
I do drink coffee. An old roommate of mine used to have ginger chai lattes, and I was like, no to the second half of that. But my people have used ginger for many centuries. So fine. So I like grind ginger sometimes if I have it. Sometimes it's just OJ, because like I don't really drink other things. Like I don't know. I feel like some people just have juice, right? Like if I'm having a juice, it's because I feel like I might have a cold coming on. And I'm like, this must have vitamins. Word. I don't know, man. I'm a lazy, healthy person.
Got it. Lazy and healthy. I like that.
My self-care at night, I have an app that has like sounds or whatever. It's like a sound app where you get like a sound machine. I don't know why anyone would buy a sound machine. There are like a million apps. So anyway, so my app is free, and I like created these like rainstorms that remind me of Dominican Republic, because we used to have a zinc roof, so like the rain sounds different on metal. Magic. Yeah. I loved it. So I like recreate that, and it feels really good.
So you play the sounds to go to bed or at night? Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, because I like my mind, no matter how exhausted I am, I feel like I'll just start hearing things. I live in the South Bronx. The guy across the like alley from me, I hear his TV more than he does. So like there's just some things I can't control. So very good rain music.
Yes. What do you do? What are some things you do for self-growth?
I listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts and I don't listen to the news. No, I listen to the news, but in much more, I don't listen to like the daily news, like every day, I mean. That I think helps me because I'm not watching it from a third degree, fourth degree separation. I'm trying to get closer to sources and or to dialogues about the thing, right? Instead of just, oh, this thing happened, next, this other thing happened, next. It's like, or we're wondering if this will happen for a whole 2 weeks. And it's like, can you cover something else then? So I podcast because I can do other things and feel useful and productive. And I mean, I follow a lot of pages online that do a lot of similar work. So like Instagram and such, my Instagram is full of a lot more political and like cultural things than, I mean, like the study of culture, not like, because the other is still culture. But I don't really fill my time with things that don't grow me. I'm either trying to grow and being uncomfortable in it, or I'm trying to cope with the discomfort and like getting back to normal so I can push it again. And I think that that's the only thing that's keeping me happy, to be honest. Just kind of pushing and then pausing and putting myself back together, kind of.
Yeah.
So mainly that.
Yeah.
Discussions with friends who watch other things that I don't watch because I don't like a show or something like that. Yeah. So sometimes it's discussions about the things that I'm looking at.
So you have like a filtering system. What's your favorite your top 3 podcasts?
A friend of mine just put me on to Ezra Klein. I had heard Ezra before, but I was like, I don't know. Nah. Also, I don't take the train anymore. So I'm like watching stuff on TV. Oh, wait, pause, time out. The previous question. I watch a lot of comedy, like a lot of comedy. It's obnoxious. You should see my YouTube like page. It's like, you only look at this. And I'm like, shut up. back to what you said.
So okay, hold on. Is the comedy watching, is that for self-care or self-growth?
Hopefully both. Some of the comedy I watch is maybe not something I would be able to palate in person. But I think that comedy is a really useful tool for people to be more honest. And I think that you can get a lot of insight by like how people are joking. But also definitely just sometimes I'm like, let me find some people that like totally agree with me so they can make me laugh for a second because the world sucks. So it's a little bit of both, I would say. Or sometimes I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be great. And I'm like, wow, this is not great. I must figure out how this went left. What? I don't understand. So then I go into like dig deep. Why am I upset about this? Blah, blah, blah.
Okay. So back to your top two podcasts. So Ezra Klein and what else?
Radio Ambulante. But I stopped listening to it because they had a break and I like forgot to go back. Maria Hinojosa, I think, is the host, if I remember correctly. But it's basically, I always get really upset about being exposed to wonderful, like, intellectual conversation that, like, pretty much reminds me of college, right? I can find those things. And I kept trying to look for them in Spanish and I couldn't. And that, like, broke my heart. But I don't have the tools to do it myself, but I would, right? I'm like, no, I would literally just translate podcasts for people. I'm upset that that I can't forward this to my mom, you know, because she and I have wonderful political conversations. So yeah, Radio Ambulante, she's amazing. They're amazing. I love her voice. I'm still listening to archived stuff. Like, I just love it. Besides that, I don't remember. I want to say Serial because I've like heard a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean that's a good list. So you mentioned, dealing with anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and so how do you reduce your distractions, which I think plays into the anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. Reduce the distractions. I laugh because I feel like I don't do a very good job at it. I don't know that I do, in the sense that, like, I do this little, I like barter with myself in short-term stints. Some of the other podcasts I've heard have like explained to me in detail why, like, one of them was like the dilemma of choice or something like that. And I'm like, it's so true. And like, so often I find myself like, should I do this or should I do that? And then I'm like spending the time it would take me 10 minutes and I'm spending 15 making the decision. And it's like, bro. So sometimes it is just like, stop, don't think about it. Which one do you hate the least? Like, just go, just start, go. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like reminding myself that I've been in situations that are similar to, like, let's say I'm trying to find a job. And if I'm trying to find work and I know that if I spend 6 hours doing it, that I'm going to be physically exhausted, I barter, right? It's like, okay, you still need to do 6 hours though, so figure it out. Do you make a wonderfully beautiful lunch and like spend an hour making it and an hour eating it and chill and like then get back? Or are you gonna push through it and get to 4 hours? Like, what's gonna happen? So I don't set that's one of the things I preemptively do, I guess. I don't set the things that don't have to be done at a certain time don't have a time, because I'll spend more time beating myself up about not doing it at 11 than realizing that I needed a break this morning and that I could do it at 2 o'clock, yeah. So a lot of it for me is about preventing something from being able to truly like take me away. Most of the time I'm distracted with something that builds me up in another way. So it doesn't feel too bad. I also make people hold me accountable sometimes, or ask them to. Sorry, so rude. Some people can't hold me accountable. Like, they just can't. They're like, so you did the thing, and I'm like, yeah, next. Like, and I'll say it just like that. Like, I'm blatantly lying to you, bro. And they're still like, okay, just wanted to do my job and ask. And I'm like, no. Then there's some, like, my best friend Grace will literally call me like, you ready? The day before, you ready? It's like, yes. What time you set your alarm? Girl, I'm an adult. And she's like, are you? And I'm like, ah! So sometimes I make things a game. Sometimes I make the right person hold me accountable.
Yeah. No, that's I would think that's key. But I mean, if you already know some of your friends or your accountable buddies are not gonna hold you accountable, why are you even giving them that role?
You start small, and that's how you know people. Like, I ask you, like, hey, when we get to the store, supermarket, whatever, remind me to get this, because I might forget. We're at the line, nobody remembers. It's my job to remember. I'm not mad at you, but I'm like, you forgot.
Yeah.
Like, what? No, I'm kidding.
Is there something that you're looking forward to that excites you?
Seeing my parents. I don't think anything has excited me more, because it's been so long. I don't know how long. It hasn't been years plural, but like it feels like it. Just like hugging them. Like, I don't know. Also returning to the classroom. I will be back. I was not in the best of places when I first started, and I made some mistakes. But I also joined some companies that weren't for me. Now I come back, right? Like, with, I don't know, hopefully some learnings. But I intend on being back in the classroom. The hope was this year, but I don't think that's going to be it.
Yeah.
So
So
2021, maybe.
So what do you do in your professional life?
That's a tricky question. I am a hybrid of, I think they all make sense though. I spent maybe half of my career in sales and half of it in education. So to me, same, right? Like, every time I got a sales job, I'm like, I'm not selling them anything. And they're like, what? This is an interview, ma'am. And I'm like, yeah, but like, people know what they want. You just have to like hold their hand a little bit and like help them see what it is that they need and give them options. People will choose whatever they're. So for me, it was about education, right? Yeah. And also kind of flipped in education. I feel like it's bigger than just standing there and telling stuff to people. Like, I have to sell you on the idea that what I'm saying matters, even though half the time you ain't gonna remember, right? Like, I just need you to kind of go through this with me, kid, you know? So sales and teaching. Yeah. I've done some consulting work here and there, but it hasn't been the bulk of my history. And
is that what you envision doing, dreaming about as a kid?
No. No. I wanted to be an engineer. And then I remember my dad like legit laughed at me. He was like, what the fuck? Like, what? And I was like, he did not know how ingrained this moment would be in my brain. But I was like, what? What you mean? Why can't I be an engineer? I know some of those. I know it's a thing. And I also knew like how heavy it was in math. And I was still like, yes, even though I like hated math until high school. Then I was like a total geek about it. But engineer. And then my dad was like, okay, no, you're a girl. And I was like, wow. Wow. you brought me to this country to tell me stuff like that? He's like, so he's apologized, man. Like, he was like, yo, I feel like I pigeonholed you. I was like, you did, but I forgive you. An engineer. And then I was like, oh, fine, I'll be an architect. And he was like, that's a little better. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
Also, the knew that was like the less manly one for him was kind of messed up. Like, I hate yeah. Mm-hmm.
What type of engineer did you envision?
I wanted to be a civil engineer, like legit make buildings happen. Not that an architect just draws, but like I wanted to do the math. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to like be the science behind it, you know? Mm. And they wanted me to be a doctor, of course. My mother said I would be very good as a lawyer. And I was like, absolutely not. And I'm a teacher. Which is funny because my mom is a teacher. So she brought us here on some like, let me bring you a better future. And she did by far. My life would have been very different. But like she came here and was like, I don't want my kids to do like just service work because that was like hard for her. She's like, aim higher, kid, you know? And I was like, I love public service. So sucks for you. And both of us are in public service. My brother's a police officer. So retired actually. Excuse me, detective. But so both of us became public servants and she was like, I thought we were gonna be rich, y'all.
So you said your dad later apologized when you were older or when you were younger? Older?
When I was older, yeah. I was what he would call a feisty kid. I used to talk back a lot. But it was because they brought me up to kind of ask questions. So I just asked them because they were the only people in my life. So my dad was like, she got too many questions. She's sassy. And I was like, what? But my mom kept up. My mom was she's always very, very, very witty. Mm. My dad is witty, but when I was challenging like his entire world, like existing as the like feminist American girl, he was like, what did I do? What? Who told her to say that? And I'm like, my brain. And he's like, wow, wasn't asking you. When can she shut up? Like, poor dad.
Oh man.
I think he meant, to be frank. I think that he saw me become the woman that I am, and he's sat down with me and been like, you know, I know you've done some stupid things, but like you are, like my dad believes deep down in his soul that I am an exceptional woman. And like, I love that because I sometimes don't remember. So it's nice that my papa.
And you're daddy's girl. So the fact that he believes in you so much, I'm sure it adds a lot to your life.
Oh, for sure. He like yells at me for not talking to him. I'm like, I talked to you 2 days ago. He's like, right. I'm like, whoa, bro. Can I do stuff?
Is there something on your bucket list to learn or do?
Yes. I think I would sob, but I want to go to Machu Picchu. And I used to want to climb the mountain and see Machu Picchu. Now I'm just like, no, I just go there. It's fine. But I want to see a lot of the historical places in Latin America. And that would be where I would want to start. Yeah. It's just it's gorgeous.
And you haven't, have you been to any of them?
No, I've only been, the most I've traveled, because again, this whole like family of 200 million people, no, I'm kidding. My family was huge and we all always traveled to Dominican Republic. And then as adults, they just basically like recreated that same thing for all their children. I say they because I don't have children, but like all my nieces and nephews and cousins, and like, it's like, oh, we're all just gonna go to DR. Haven't been over the pond either. The farthest I've been is Cozumel, Mexico. That's it. That's right there.
Yeah.
I think Key West was farther. Like,
is there anything you want to unlearn?
Yes. Oh my God. I wish I could unlearn. Well, give me a second, because when you say that, it instantly makes me kind of like, right. I wish I could unlearn like the like racial bias, right? Like, great. I would love to wake up tomorrow and like, but how isolating would that be? Because that's not a thing. Or like, I would love to undo like the fat phobia that's like ingrained in me that I'm constantly like fighting against.
The what?
Fat phobia, like, just, I mean, I think I've come so far, but like when I was much younger, I was like, I hate, like, I didn't understand how detrimental it was for me to be vocal about like self-hate regarding weight and also apply that to others, right? Like, it's already detrimental when I do it to myself. Yeah. And then above and beyond that, if I'm like spewing that to other human beings, one, a friend of mine asked me, I think it was a pivotal moment in my life. A friend of mine asked me, I said something like, I don't know, I think I said like, I don't like fat people or something like that. First of all, who am I? But okay. Second of all, I said that out loud. Like, that's insane. And then my friend, I didn't know her at the time, but we were like in a house party dinner thing. And she literally comes up to me and goes, that's the worst thing somebody could do, be fat. And I was like, oh, that's not what I said. And she's like, right, but like, that's what comes off. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. Got it. Copy. And I feel like it resonated because I think she saw that I wasn't trying to be who I sounded like. And she caught it, she confronted me, and I was like, oh, yeah, no. That is not what I meant. You are correct. I would stop saying stupid things like that. But also I learned to love myself a little bit more. And I think it helps because I think it was in part just a bunch of poor, like, learned behavior from like trying to assimilate, really. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm close to unlearning it, but I'm not. Like, there are moments still that I'm like wildly uncomfortable because of my size or my weight, or I'm like hypersensitive about it in certain situations. So it's definitely something I wish I could unlearn. That's the one.
Yeah. You also said, racial bias, but it would be so self-isolating. So yeah. Unpack that a little. That's an interesting response, actually.
Yeah. I think that I think that understanding that, like, the definition of racism that's not like society, that's just like seeing something in someone, the way you like can see someone's height, right? Like, I know I am tall because other people are shorter. So like, it's not, I don't want to unlearn how to do any of that. What I think I would like to unlearn is white supremacy, really, to be frank. Because it leaked down to Dominican Republic, of course. The world is not its own teeny tiny bubble everywhere. And I also think the reason I say I almost wish I didn't is because I think that I have grown as a person, and I think that I came from a place of having learned something that was not necessarily what I would have believed had I been given all the information, and then finally learning some information and coming over to the other side. I feel like so much of my life has been like people slapping me in the face with like realities, and maybe like, no, and then going, oh crap, yes. So the experiences in my life, I'm sure would have been different had I not walked in with the biases that I did. But I also hope that, like, I can imagine that I probably did some messed up stuff that I can't remember, that like were microaggressions or were like smaller issues at the time. I don't know. And like, there's a part of me that can almost relate to the world because we all stumble that way. And I feel like if I didn't have that, I would be like an angel today. And people would be like, what? Stop lying. What you mean? What? I'm like, what do you mean? I am wonderful. I don't fucking know. I don't need to be pious, but I wish I would have been better sooner. That's what I think is the issue. With fat phobia, I just wish it never existed, because that's like, there is literally like, can I just have both?
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, both.
No?
Yes, have both of them. Yeah, both of them. They're both yours. You know, what was I gonna say? So, can you think of any advice that you would give your younger self?
Ooh. Man, there's so many. You will find your people. I think it took me a second. I always say that I'm weird. I think it's a beautiful thing. I most definitely did not start that way. I think that my otherness in groups has been something I've usually been really forthright about. Just like, yeah, I'm different than you, what? But those stumbles are still stumbles, right? When you walk into a room and you feel like you don't belong there, every time that happens for a different reason, it still hurts, even though you've done that before. So for me, I think it's just find your people, like they're out there, and like you will find your tribe. Yeah. I'm really happy about that.
And you said you found your tribe.
I don't know that it's done, right? I don't think there's a finality. Say what?
Is it an ongoing thing?
Yeah, I would say so. Because I think if I'm to believe that I am a person who can learn, then I'm a person who can grow. And if I can grow, then so can my people, right? Like, so can the people that are with me in whatever capacity. So are there people that, like, just by having been there longer have maybe a tighter connection to me? Most definitely. But longevity doesn't always mean connection. So I hope that it's bigger than it is right now, because I love my people, but more the merrier, I guess.
Oh, that's good. What's the best advice you've received about money?
My ex, I've only lived with one partner. And that was like the only time I ever spoke to someone about money outside of my family. And my family deals with money very differently depending on who you talk to. The best advice I would say, because it stuck, is pay your bills when you get paid, not when they're due. It's such a small thing. But it when I first started paying bills, it was like, oh, I have to remember that, like, this was on the 12th and this was on the 16th and this was on the 23rd. And no, I don't have to remember. Like, I will just be ahead by 2 weeks and I will pay it when I get paid, the end. Because assuming that you can do that, right? Like, that's not always possible, but wherever possible, do that, because being ahead is always better.
What has been the toughest thing you've had to tackle, and will help you get through it?
Oh crap. The toughest thing I've ever had to tackle was depression. No. Yeah, depression. Depression, anxiety, like little trifecta happening, PTSD. And like I don't know which one to separate it to, but it was a culmination of all of my issues and like life kind of kicking me. And I was severely depressed, like just would not leave the house. Could you imagine? Now that we can't leave houses, it's like I would not leave the house. I like barely wanted to like feed and bathe, you know, like life sucked. But somehow I kept waking up and I was like, fine, but that was it. It was a really tough time, and I think that I know that I survived it with the help of that small army that I know I kind of walk into every room with. I have a ridiculously wonderful group of friends that are like legitimate family. I feel like I tried my best not to ask for the help, which was the problem. Well, one of the problems. But I feel like most of them were like, no, I'm not asking you. And that takes, I think that takes closeness, if nothing else, right? Your coworker's not going to do that to you. My friends are going to be like, no, this is what you need, sit down. And they did. So I was really, really, really proud of the people I had chosen to stick with during that time. They were definitely my lifesavers, quite literally.
Yeah. Where do you feel the most at home and happy?
In nature. Like, oh my God. If I I didn't understand what hiking was, because it's an American word, or it's an English word. Like hiking is not we don't say that word. It's not a word. It's just walking in nature. So I don't, Spanish is like, what? Maybe there is a word now. I don't know. I should probably look it up. But hiking, if I could put my toes in the grass and or hug a tree and or look at a mountain, you know, like it all involves trees or mountains or grass or space or, I don't know, a pond, a lake, the ocean. Like it's always something that has nothing to do with something a human made. Yeah. I love nature. It feels like when I tell you about my tribe, this is weird. It's too late. I feel like my tribe is really there. Like I feel like when I know people who love nature like that, I'm like, oh, you are one of my people. Hi. So probably because of that. Have you put your feet in the grass? It's amazing. Anyway.
Yeah. No. So given what you just said, how long have you been living in the Bronx?
Okay.
I mean, really, since 2, right?
3 years, 30 years. I left to Philadelphia. I lived in Philly for 5 years. Okay. I can't do math.
Okay, so my point is, you have this deep love affair with nature, but you lived in the concrete jungle your entire life, essentially.
But I live around the block from a park.
Okay.
And like my family thought that was our park. Like we were the annoying people that had parties on Saturdays in the park. That was us. That's why I can't be mad when I can hear my neighbor. But I had the park, and then I had DR. Like literally, my parents were like, shut up and read, and we'll send you to nature for 2 months. And then you come back and we do it again. And we did it for 12 years. So.
And do you see yourself either returning back to DR permanently or,
No.
No?
I'm just not, how do I put this? I don't want to live the day-to-day that DR would offer me specifically if I moved to where I would move. I think if I were to move to the Dominican Republic and be in like a fancy high-rise and like, basically live in Riverdale, but in DR, then maybe. But I don't know that I would enjoy myself because I don't align really well with a lot of the like the status quo culture. I don't fit. So I don't think I fit. And I don't want to. So that doesn't bode well because then what are you doing? Like, what are you doing here if you like don't like it? And it's like, no, I like it. I just wish there was less of this and that. And like, I'm just too Americanized right now, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe when I'm like old, and I'm like, I just want to sit.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't fit?
I never really felt like the quote unquote typical Dominican girl growing up. I was always super tall. I'm 5'10", and like I was 5'8" in like 6th grade. I was just soaring. I think it was like the tallest person in 8th grade in the entire school, minus like 2 teachers. And I was like, okay, this is life. So like when someone thinks about a Dominican girl in the South Bronx or in Harlem or New York City, basically, I didn't know until I like went out more often that I was not who they imagined. They imagined the small, like maybe 5'5", petite, like bubble butt, like, there's just some features that I'm just like, no, just go ahead, thanks. Like for me, there was a lot of loving myself because I was like my family, but a lot of like, damn, I'm real different from these broads. What's up with that?
Your family
I've
tall?
a lot of hair. What happened?
You said your family's tall as well?
Yeah, my mom is the shortest. Well, my brother's like 6'1". My dad was 6'1". I think he's shrinking already. I'm Papa. 5'10", maybe 5'9" now. My mom is down to 5'7" from 5'8".
Yeah.
My grandpa was 6'5".
Wow.
Like there's some genes in there.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, so when you say you don't fit in, you're talking more so the physical aesthetics, like you're just being tall.
I mean, also I'm just mouthy, like I was saying earlier. Like I am sassy. That's not a misconception. Not for the sake of sass, but I don't handle it well when people, the students call it subbing. Like when you jab at me or like when you're passive aggressive with me, I'll probably ask you like, are you just being passive aggressive and you mean this? Like stop playing these games with language. Like say what you mean. We don't got this time. So a lot of it was like, oh my God, how dare she? Like she's supposed to be cute and quiet. And I'm like, nobody likes you, please leave. So it does not work out for me. So,
I got it now. I see. Yeah. That makes sense. I got you. What qualities or character traits do you admire in other people?
Kindness. I want to say kindness and positivity, but that's not true. It's kindness and gratitude. I think when I look at the students that I work with and I'm kind of telling them who I am so that they know how to handle me and like as a first step, right? A lot of it for me is about honesty, sorry, scratch that. Honesty, kindness, and my gosh, what was that third one? Gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude.
Because if I feel like one of those three will help no matter what. So, and because my life kind of centers itself around experiences with others, I think it would behoove me to be nice to them. It would be a good idea to be a kind person, to be conscientious, you know. A lot of people don't seem to have that often, but I think that people are practicing more. I think people are trying to put themselves in other people's shoes more and more, and I love seeing that. Mm. Honesty, curiosity, I don't know. Lots of adjectives.
Yeah. All right, for a fun question. If you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do?
Which lottery? Like, how much are we talking? Like 40 million?
We're talking 300. Your take home is going to be 300 million US dollars.
300 million? Holy Jesus. I would pay off all my family's debts, blah, 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 right? Like all the like outstanding debt we have to the world. Free us now, right? But then I would add, okay, so I would put every single one of my family members, and I'm telling you that is a ridiculous number. So my dad is one of 11, my mom is one of 9. They all had kids. It's a lot of people. But I would set them up with the yearly amount that you can give people tax-free, which I believe is $14,000. I know this because I have planned winning the lotto before with my ex. And by that, I mean, she planned it, and I was like, sure, that works. I would invest $300 million. Jesus Christ. I would invest a third. I would literally just bounce on people and be like, see ya, I'll let you know when the next vacation is, and like host parties in fancy places like every 6 months. That would be like the splurge. I don't want anything. I don't want a mansion. I don't want any of these stupid things that, like, I say stupid because I feel like they will bog me down. I can make my tiny house like community village thing. And I could fund some of my friends' businesses. Oh my God. Okay. The come up if I win the lotto, bro.
I'm excited just seeing you so excited. Like, this must happen. Now you have to win the lotto. So hold on. You said you know all this stuff because you were playing with your ex. So did you guys play the lotto? I mean, like, tell me more. You played the lotto regularly?
I did not. And she used to get mad at me because she's from Texas. Okay. And I think it's just like more normal for people to just like play the lotto every day. I'm like, that's insane. Like, you know what I could do with $1? Like, stop. So she's like, we're gonna win. Whatever. But I used to tell her all the time, I'm like, if I win the lotto, like, I think you have to win the lotto. I can't win the lotto. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what am I gonna do with everybody? Like, everybody just comes out the woodworks. You end up like, your friendships end up falling apart because money's awful. And she's like, okay, we won't tell people. I think Pennsylvania like doesn't make you say it, or I don't know. But we talked for years about this. I have like paperwork that we like sat down and we're like, all right, so how much to who? And what are we gonna tell them that? Like, we need an estate manager. Like, I'm not doing this by myself. Don't talk to me about money. I don't handle that. Talk to her. So we have plans, man. Road trips. I'm still doing these things, and I'm sure she is too, but not together. Road trips, traveling the world, cruises, buying the fancy cars that we dream of, you know, that kind of stupid stuff. But most of it is just being around the people that I love. But everybody doesn't want to retire tomorrow. Like, some people got some stuff to do. They have passions. So, like, maybe that means funding something you want to start, you know? But we planned a lot of that, like by name. People had numbers next to them depending on which one we played.
That's interesting. But you don't. So you currently don't play the lotto.
Nah. No. Sometimes when I take a cab and I get off the highway, there's a big bulletin, and that makes me want to play the lotto. But by the time I make it to the bodega, I forget. It's just not that important to me. Yeah. I don't necessarily think I'll do it, but maybe because I saw the tiny house village just now and I got that excited, it'll happen. Nice. How much the lotto today? Is it today a thing?
Yeah, I mean, when you hit, we have to do the big reveal on the show.
Oh God. From an undisclosed location, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. You'll be somewhere in the world. We're just talking about life now as this lotto winner. With that, right. The difference. Is there anyone that you would like to thank or express your appreciation for that you haven't had the chance to yet?
I don't think I ever told her. Yeah, I don't think I ever told her. One of my closest friends in high school, Thuy, she is from Vietnam. Ugh, I hope. Oh, that would be so fucked up if I messed that up. But she is the reason I applied to NYU. My counselor did not, I was in a different bracket. Like we were basically tracked when we were headed out of high school. So the top 10 students had one counselor, and then the rest of us were kind of separated between people. I was right after that. And I remember my counselor being like, I don't know that that's gonna be the right school. And I only clicked it because it was my friends were doing it, right? We were just nerds. And I was like, what school you going to? What school you going to? I just want to go to the school you go to because we can be nerds together again. And she basically pushed me to apply to NYU after a counselor was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And NYU ended up being the biggest financial aid package. So I was really excited about that. But I was scared because I wanted to leave. And I hated that I applied because I definitely didn't want to stay in New York City. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I think that I would have never applied had it not been for her. I would have never known how important that school was had it not been for her. I had not done the research. I don't know how. She found it for me and sat me down and walked me through the application. So if not for her, I don't think that I would have gone to the school I went to. And I believe that so much of my tribe came after the learnings I went through there with the people I went through. So I'm sure that I would have learned some other stuff somewhere else, but I am wildly grateful for the people that I met, teachers, fellow students, and friends that I kept along the way. I don't think I would have ever known all of you. Yeah. So,
Nice. So for our final question, how do you define success?
I want to say having stability, but still being able to strive for more. For me, it's a much simpler equation. Not a simple equation, but an equation that applies at different statuses. I think it's important to, again, that gratitude piece. I think it's really important to kind of just remember to dream, right? But that's so cute and yeah, everybody should dream. But really, it's about being stable enough to be able to dream, to then be able to go do that, right? So for me, it's about the freedom to go pursue something that I'm dreaming of. And or the peace to dream, right? there have been times when I'm like, nah, I don't have that. It's not, I don't have a goal because I can't picture anything outside of this situation. Like, many times when depression kind of hits, it's difficult to kind of imagine that there's anything good because I don't have any desire to do anything. So oddly enough, the idea of dreaming about something, just the dreaming about something, is something I now cherish because it has always been.
It's a great way to end. We connected. We politic.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do this again when you win the lottery. I enjoyed the conversation immensely.
Same. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.